And then I do want to briefly bring up the situation from last night that a lot of people were talking about all over social media, gambling, Twitter, if you will, and the like, about the Nets game, right? Which they just, real quickly, I'll just give the brief intro and then you take over in what you saw and how it might have affected you as well, which is they essentially announced everybody out except for Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges was set to play in this game despite nobody else that of any kind of veteran status was ready to play. And then that gentleman, DFS on Twitter, tweeted out that the pretty sharp angle that Bridges has done this before. He's just has this starter streak where he starts all these games in a row. And the last time this happened, he played like the first quarter and then sat, which would lead you to go bet all these unders for Mikal Bridges, which dude didn't even say, but he basically said it in the tweet. So then that essentially from there, what happened from your perspective?
Yeah. So I just happened to be on my computer, and I think this guy is, he has good info, right? There's a lot of bullshit on Twitter where people are like, this player is feeling motivated, like whatever, right? But like this guy over the time he digs into press conferences, gets a feel for minutes. It's a really, so I trust, and I take, he's an account that I will pull from a lot, right? As a professional, I value what he says, and it saves me time. And so when he posts this, I'm traveling, so it's tougher for me. I don't have my full ducks in a row, but I bet Mikal Bridges all his unders in a single game parlay on FanDuel, right? And don't get as much down as I wanted to, but it was still a nice win, yeah. And so you parlayed all those. It's kind of like the Draymond Green situation from last year, right? Very similar. And then, I hear a bunch of people who I also respect a lot in the industry on Twitter, people like who are really coming at this guy. And they're like, why would you share that? Like, you just cost yourself a huge opportunity. And I think that's just a really interesting conversation. Like, I think what he is trying to do is share this angle, probably build his subscriber base, which I think he's had success with, right? But it also, when you have a bunch of people placing $5 single game parlays and you're a pro who, if you had a little more time, this is like at least a 5-figure win, then you're upset.
Because the first question is, do we know that he didn't get money down before he tweeted
I'm sure he got money down, but there's a difference between him, who's, I no disrespect to the guy, but I don't think he's getting much of his income from actually betting, whereas these other guys, I think, are.
Gotcha.
And so I still, like, I honestly have no problem with it, because for me, for example, I'm a pro, and I was traveling. If I hadn't looked at his shit,
you wouldn't have seen it at all.
Made my day yesterday.
Yeah. But people online were legit mad at him for putting that out and ruining their play.
Very mad. Like, he wasn't really understanding, right?
Did they already have that? Did they already have that angle? Do we know?
My guess is that they saw it, and they saw the angle, and as they were trying to like get other people to bet for them, etc. It's then, because his volume of people, the sports book seeing so many like $5-10 bets coming through, then they take it down, right? But man, sports betting is very much like, what people I think don't understand is that you are not just playing against the books, like you're playing against yourselves. There's only so much money. So like, what I don't understand why even some pros who are frankly like a lot like me, I get that they would, but if he wasn't going to do that shit, someone else was, because the reality of this industry is that a lot of people make money selling picks and not betting, and like selling subscriptions. And everyone's trying to make it. So if this guy is sharing good info publicly, and it might ruin it, and for him, I would recommend, like, hey, you better make sure you at least get like $1,000 down, like, if you say, before you share it with everyone. But once you do that, like, what do you owe these strangers? I don't think you owe him anything really, and it's
The stranger
unfortunate.
better. Yeah. Well, so
Christopher
that's the
Slaughter.
thing. He's not just like an innocent bystander doing this with no clear cut motivation. His motivation is that the commodity of followers means something to him. So he's still you know what I mean, like he's on the come up in his own industry of subscribers equals eyeballs equals either subscription model or advertising or whatever, right?
But what I have issue is that these pros think that like
Oh, they're just curmudgeonly
their
dudes.
own motives of like, I wanted to bet more down
Yeah.
should be above that. And I don't really
They're just curmudgeonly dudes. This is a capitalist society. You lost in this particular market battle and move the fuck on. Like, that's it. I have no patience for that shit.
I get it though. Like, I think there's an element of like when you're someone who was betting professionally and like you're mad at this person for ruining it. You seem like an old man, like yelling at
you are
right. But also I understand that there could have been a bigger net gain for bettors if DFS or whatever his name is was a little more, I think, strategic as far as like, who are the people I know who could really help me get down quietly here, right?
That's not his goal, right? He's got a Patreon that he's trying to
but there is an argument like he is a little misguided.
Okay.
Because he could have made a shit ton, like he could have made more money.
So let's break that down real quick, because that does dive into the scenario of like the industry of being a handicapper who might be garnering part of his revenue every year from actually betting and part of his revenue from other means, such as subscriptions on his Patreon or potentially a podcast or something that he has where he gets listeners and as a result he gets advertising, etc. Right? So those are other revenue streams that he put together, and the way that he's found to continue to increase and his input and all of that is essentially to continue to find what new audiences, right, to come and pay him money for his Patreon. So there's a couple of things. One is, you're not wrong that he's misguided in this, and here's how I would have done it if I was him, which is put down as much as I can, give it to my Patreon people fast, and because they're behind a paywall, so they need this value. This is a fucking whale play apparently, so like give them that value. And then later, if you want to like show what you did on Twitter and be like, this is what you're missing on Patreon or something to that effect, that's probably a better play. The second part, real quick, to finish the point, is if you're a professional bettor and you are angry dude yelling at cloud, I know you're wearing a polo shirt, right, and like untucked in your loose jeans with some loafers or some white New Balances, like that's who's yelling at this dude, right, who's sitting in a casino all day. And so that dude needs to, like, one, relax, and two, realize, like, if you want to actually give some advice to this person to help you in the future, don't start yelling at him on Twitter and Reddit. Like, go contact him and be like, hey man, I made $250,000 gambling on sports last year, and this is how I did it, and that information was just worth 6 figures, and you threw it down the drain.
Yeah, no, and I would challenge your assumption that like every pro gambler is in a casino, right? Like, I think there's a lot of people, frankly, who are more like the people who are more like-minded who are like-minded to me are the people who are upset at this guy. And I agree with you. Like, for me,
I went too far.
If I was trying to build my own shit, I'm reaching out to this guy because he found something good before many people, and he was on it early, and that's impressive to me.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of people would have found it and called it out as early. So I thought that was, again, I've been, I think, and I wish I knew his name, but this guy,
call him DK, yeah, or whatever.
Yeah, DK. He did it. I think he's showing a level of pretty, like, withedness. And sure, other people had this angle too, but like, to display it the way he did was in a compelling argument where he was like spot on, was really good. But yeah, like,
and can I walk something back real quick?
Yeah.
Basically, like, I went a little, like, if I was gonna be more constructive than saying, yo, relax, I would say, you're letting your emotions in this short-term incident like really get the better of you, when in reality there actually is probably a gain to be had by contacting this dude and be like, hey bro, sharp play, like how did you come up with that? Or, would love to like talk about like, exchanging info moving forward or something to that effect. Right.
Get them on your bankroll, man. I do think like there's so much bullshit out in the content space that I actually think it's really great.
Yeah.
And I do think it's bullshit. Like some of the shit he was saying about like, I'm just trying to help as many people as possible. Like go volunteer at a food bank. Like that's not like, there's an element of like, come on. Like there's
you're trying to help yourself.
There's of course a self-interest here. I think it's okay to own that. And like, if you don't really know yet, right? I was in a space where I didn't know all these people and I didn't know how important networking with people who also did this for a living was.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with that. You're not gaining anything by like calling this guy an idiot. Like he's clearly a pretty capable young man. And it's like, let's actually tell him he made a mistake.
Right.
There's better ways to go about that. But like you said, I think there's an angle, like reach out to me, man. Like
100%.
This is great. There's going to be other opportunities like this. I think the concern, in a legitimate one, is that if you broadcast that widely, there's going to be less opportunities available. So your goal, even if your goal was helping people, in the long run, like I would be surprised if books are leaving Bridges SGPs up next time he plays to extend his fucking streak, which is the dumbest thing in the world, by the way. Like that streak is such an asterisk already. Yeah. Like, dude, you're not starting a game. That shouldn't count.
100%.
You're playing 12 minutes. Get out of here. So, 100%. But anyways, it's an interesting discussion, and I see both sides, and I think it understanding the discussion tells you a lot about the industry as a whole.
Yeah. And just for full transparency, it's interesting because you're on the side, you are an example and a member of the contingency of pro bettors, right? Period. And I am on the contingency of someone who makes money off of betting and also is a media personality, for lack of a better way to put it, an entity that's trying to that revenue model means that I need to incentivize people to follow what I'm saying and give them a reason, and shit like that is a great reason. You can put it behind a paywall and you probably won't dick too many things because it's fewer people that are going to be making those $5 to $10 underplays on Bridges, like you said. So we're in agreement though. Like there's still a level-headed sort of way of doing this, and I would say like to the people who just lost their minds or started freaking out on the dude with like all caps and exclamation points, that was just a moment of like letting your emotions get the better of you. And that's kind of the end of the point there.
I also think, Josh, and I know we're over time here.
All good.
Yeah, at least I gotta go.
Sure.
But I don't think like putting it behind a paywall is necessarily a solution. Right? Because if you put it behind a paywall, you're still going to get these like $10 bettors who are blowing up the lines before you can actually capitulate and take advantage of it. Right? So I don't think. Yeah.
What I mean though is if he's good enough to do this repeatedly, because this isn't just a one-off lucky thing that he found or what have you, this is such a deep, detailed thing that I would think that he's capable of continuing that type of analysis and projection.
Yeah.
Then like decipher which ones warrant going to Patreon versus going into your bank account versus going out on Twitter, right? Like there can be three.
And I would put another thing, and this is I think what the pros are advocating for, like,
hit us up.
Like find the network, like find people who are more
doesn't know,
who have movers who can. That's I think that's the criticism that I think is a valid one. Like, dude, you're not like the word of advice I would give them is like, dude, you're actually not fully capitalizing on your skill set. Like you should be something way more.
He doesn't know. He might not even understand the sort of like internal pipeline that exists between people who are moving markets because they're betting 6 figures on one bet.
Right.
He doesn't understand that.
Do that while moving the screen versus how to do that on a dumb account that won't move it and keep it up for longer. Like there's a lot of dynamics. Yeah. And that's true for most people. But anyways,
All right, we can move on. This is really interesting. I'm gonna get you back though. So
Yes.
we'll make time next time. So appreciate you, dude, and I'll let you run for now.
All right, Josh. Take care, man.
All right, man.